The other thing that you wrote in your paper, and I don't want to let it go unsaid, is besides this this exponential rise of AI, AGI, ASI, whatever we're going to call it, is the emergence of humanoid robots. We've got, probably on the order of 20 plus well-funded humanoid robot companies. You mentioned Unitree in China. We've got Tesla building Optimus here. We've got Figure, which just is releasing Figure 2. And if, Elon's not necessarily been correct on his timing all the time, but he's been correct on pricing. And it's, sort of a dollar per kilogram for a certain level of complexity. And his projection for Optimus is $10,000 a unit. Let's double it, give him 100% margin to $20,000 a unit. That's something that you could rent for $100 a month, having a humanoid robot running the highest level AI model accessible 24/7. And that's going to change the world.
Yeah, I think this is the thing. The embodied agents and the advances we've seen there now with on-device and cloud AI now, being able to do segmentation, analysis, robotics, it's here all of a sudden, all at the same time. We see this actually in history a lot, where the same breakthrough just happens in different places almost. And we're seeing this all the time in AI, where you see literally disparate breakthroughs, because the control problem in robotics is pretty much there now.
Yeah.
For 90% of use cases. Again, not 100%, but these robots can manipulate. They can read a recipe now, we've seen, and they can just make the recipe from the instructions with full autonomic control. And they can do auto-regressive learning as well in swarms. So Unitree have that, and others are implementing that, where one robot learns from the tasks of others.
Which is insanely powerful. Bringing it back to health, the best surgeons in the world will be humanoid robots eventually that can see in ultraviolet and infrared, didn't have too much caffeine that morning, no fights with a boyfriend or girlfriend the night before. And it's the capex and the cost of electricity, and then all of a sudden this robot is a surgeon in multiple distant villages in India and Africa with the highest surgical skills. And like you said, if people should know this, the number one question you ask your surgeon when you're interviewing them is, how many times did you do the surgery? And if they're all operating on a single operating system, then the robots all share the same millions of operations they've done.
Yeah, and this is, again, our collective knowledge where it's taught through medical school. But AI will obviously be able to teach other AIs much better. And if we can standardize that, then that's when it can go massive. And it comes then down to just a production line process. It's like Xiaomi, the smartphone manufacturer in China. They thought they were going to be added to US sanctions, so they decided to diversify into electric vehicles. And then China's industrial prowess means they now make really good electrical vehicles. You will see these industrial giants move forward and produce millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of robots. And the really fascinating thing is that helps with the demographic issues of China and Japan and places like that at exactly the right time.
Exactly the right time. And, the predictions we've seen from Elon and from the CEO of Figure is, as much as 10 billion humanoid robots by in the 2040s, as many as there are humans. I asked a friend of mine, Imad, and I'll ask you, what's it going to feel like when you're seeing humanoid robots walking around the streets all around you all the time?
It's just going to be weird, isn't it? We already see these little ones going around that are not humanoid, but there's no reason you can't make them indistinguishable by 2040. It's really sci-fi. I mean, actually, this is the real existential threat to humanity. 10 billion robots and a bad firmware upgrade.
What could possibly go wrong?
All of the scenarios, literally, that's the one that can get us all.
I think there should be some extra checks and balances there. My friend, when I asked my other friend that question, what's it going to feel like? He said normal, and I think we're going to have these moments of freak out. I remember I got a Model X with the gull-wing doors, and in the first month, everybody's staring at it like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then, it becomes normal.
It becomes normal. I mean, and again, There's different things in different cultures. In Japan, the robots are very much side by side, or you become part of a Gundam, whereas we have this Terminator concept of robots or AI God in the West. But ultimately, as you said, like, people are used to being able to type in words and make magical images in 2 seconds now, or using ChatGPT for your homework. Like, you just talk to some of these kids and they're like, yeah, you just use it, you know? Like, there's an initial shock, and then all of a sudden the magical becomes mundane. I think we're very good at adapting to that with our filters. But 10 billion robots means that there isn't... I think one of the ways to really think about this is, how much energy do you need to put in? Your own physical, mental energy for a job to be done. Mm-hmm. And it's collapsing everywhere, the amount of energy that we need to do productive things, which means we can do so much more productive things.
Yeah, I think the scarcest resource in the world is time. You know, I'm working on it from the longevity standpoint of how do we add more years. AI will be the most impactful agent in how we reach longevity, escape velocity. But I think people need to realize that we've been buying back time with technology. You know, Google saved us hours of going to libraries looking for that book. And Zoom is you know, normally you and I would have to have flown me to London or you to LA to have this conversation. Instead, it's microseconds of, you know, click, and we're together. So it's about buying back time, which is our most scarce resource.
Well, I think there's two things. There's time, but there's also focus and flow, which I think are the other two interesting parts of that.
Tell me.
So we know how useful an amazing chief of staff or EA is. And everyone will have their own one. So, like, how do you live longer? Well, first of all, exercise and eat well. Mm-hmm. But, you know, you don't have that person, that entity that you trust telling you and advising you sometimes. So you cheat, you feel down, etc. No one will ever need to be alone again and can have a persuasive agent next to them, which is something insane to think about, that knows exactly how to talk to you to put you into good habits. And it might be physical embodied as well. It might cook your breakfast and everything. Like, how difficult is it to have healthy meals all the time that are fresh? It's hard. With robots, it's easy. $100 a month, as you said.
Yeah.
And that's kind of crazy to think about from that longevity perspective. But then it's about our own biggest enemies are ourselves. You know, like, I took off a few months because I need to clear my head and then read everything, and now I'm compressing it and putting it out, and off we go again. If I'd had all the help that I needed, and it's not like the people around me didn't help, I would have done even better. But everyone now can have access to that, which is going to be amazing for global mental health if we do this correct, and the capability of people to just achieve so much more by having that focus and flow.
Talk about flow a little bit more. How do you think about flow, and do you think humans can enter flow with AI partners, AI agents?
I think 100%. Like, when I talk to all the creatives, you know, Stability is generative media leader. How do the top artists use the AI? Do they use it to just make content and push out? No, they're like, we like to jam with it. Mm-hmm. You know, it helps us enter that flow state, especially when we customize the AIs for their catalog and things like that. And you can use it to discriminate, to do. Like, you should not use ChatGPT to write your essays. You should use it as a sparring partner to get you to think outside the box and look at things in different ways. That's the best way to use this. You know, like a very smart, precocious graduate that occasionally gets things wrong. I think this AI is original, creative, but we haven't built the systems to keep that flow state going. And the flow state is the one where everything is just kind of coming and there's no barriers between ideation, creation, and iteration. You're looping.
Yeah. One of the things I like to speak to entrepreneurs about is, you know, you don't know how to think other than the way you know how to think. And that's where generative AI models can come in. You know, you could describe to it, this is the problem I'm trying to solve. You know, how would Steve Jobs take a shot at this? How would Imad Mustaq take a shot at this? Right? You can actually have it digest and present to you different approaches that break you out of your predetermined mindsets. And that's pretty powerful. But
then also understand you. Again, having a good sparring partner is amazing. And there's this base level, like when we grew up with our parents and they supported us to go to school, you don't need to worry about all of that. But then you grow up and you have to worry about all of that. You won't have to anymore. And this other level where it is the sparring partner, where it does look from different perspectives, where it knows exactly how to talk to you, cajoling or criticizing or otherwise. But if you own that AI, you know that it's on your side versus someone else's side. Like, what is the objective function of that AI? Is it trying to sell you something, or is it looking out for you? And this is going to be one of the most important things, because we're inviting them already into our everyday lives. Like, Apple Intelligence is now going live on hundreds of millions of smartphones.
Yeah.
And it is smart and it's persuasive already. And it's only going to get more smarter and more persuasive. But is it looking out for you or someone else?